Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to our small conference, small discussion round. Before we start, I would like to present my colleagues sitting here. So we have here the majority of the European or global aftermarket sitting. The responsible CEOs of the ITGs, Grupo Union, Mr. Gunther Weber, Mr. Ingo Reif from Global One, and Warren Espinoza from ATR. These gentlemen are not only the CEOs of the aftermarket ITGs, they are also, we look with them, I know Warren especially for years, also having have a lot of experience in the aftermarket on the retail side, but also on the side of the companies, of the producers like Bosch, Gunther. Me, who I am, I'm Alex Munjuri from Schaeffler, responsible for the Middle Eastern and African market, knowing also very well the Turkish market, grew up in the Turkish aftermarket as in a retail shop. So, and I want to put a frame to the discussion that we will have today. It's what will happen in the aftermarket, because there are a lot of talks about EV vehicles, change of the mobility. Do we speak about regarding the new EV vehicles coming about a revolution? It's an evolution, is a time. Which influence will it have to the main common point that we and all the audience has is the aftermarket? What does it mean for us? And I want to start with how we see the overall development of the EV vehicles, electric vehicles. Do we see any differences globally? And Gunther, what would you say to that?
Yeah, Alex, can you hear me?
The mic is not
working. Is it now working? I can see the reaction. It's good. Okay, so Alex, if you see the EV market, the last years, everybody has seen this huge growth in percentage, right? In percentage, and then in absolute figures. But what does this mean for the aftermarket? And if you see the latest studies, everybody is expecting that we see almost 30% of the EVs, of the total vehicle park in the aftermarket being EVs, 30%. This means 70% is still combustion engine. Now, if you divide that, where we see the EVs today, mainly in Europe, right? In North America it's started, in China. But we have also other markets. We have Latin America, we have Africa. So we might have to differentiate, and with a different pace, I guess, the development of the EVs is coming. For me, it will not stop. This is, I think, the important part, that we see more and more EVs coming. But at the moment, what we're realizing is that it's slowing down globally because of decisions of some of the governments, stopping subsidies, not investing in infrastructure. And with that, there's an uncertainty in the population saying, should we invest, should we buy this car, should we buy that? I guess, and you might see all that in the same way, that now there's a segment in between, this kind of hybrid, where you say, okay, I do a little bit, but not everything. And we have to see how that develops. But again, for me, EVs is not going away. We will see a mix of combustion engine, battery EVs, hybrids over the next years, which we have to face in the aftermarket.
And now, okay, we see. So that means that from you understand there is still a longer life, more expected for combustion engine, for the alternative cars, I don't know, for the normal cars that we are used on the market and going on. And of course, but we have also an aging car park. I think this is a common thing that we see everywhere. So what is a critical area when we see an aging car park on that side, Warren?
There's quite a lot. Is it on? There's quite a lot to think about when you talk about an aging park, because we currently have a park that is probably aging. Well, it's aging slowly. Let's put it that way. It will continue to age, and I think it will. The rate at which the vehicles age will increase as we get closer to 2035 because of the uncertainty that is going to be around the electric vehicle, and people will hold on to their cars for longer. Already we're seeing some empirical evidence that comes back from the leasing companies, where the vehicle park within leasing companies is more electric than the average vehicle park. And the reason for that is because it's the leasing companies that are leasing the electric vehicles and not private individuals. So you're seeing that the private individual is saying, I like this new technology, but I'm uncertain about this technology. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lease the vehicle, and then the resale of that vehicle is not my problem. So at the end of the period of the lease, I can give the vehicle back. And I think what we're going to see then is we're going to see a mix change. The ICE engines are going to age a lot, and then I think you're going to see an interesting mix on the electric vehicle when you think about the leasing aspect. I'm not saying that very well. If I can introduce another concept just to try and help with that. ICE engines now last 25 years, call it 25 to 30 years. If you think that the electric vehicles that are being sold today are coming out with batteries that potentially will last between 12 and 15 years. If you think about the value of that battery as a proportion of the total vehicle, in many cases, what that says is if that battery fails, it's too expensive to replace the battery in that vehicle. And so that life of that vehicle is going to be significantly shorter and younger than the existing ICE vehicle park. And so there hasn't been a study yet to work out what that impact will be on the market. But what we do know is there will be an impact on the market, because today's vehicles go until 25, 30 years, and the current battery life of an electric vehicle is going to dictate it's going to be a lot shorter. So,
okay.
I'm not answering the question, I'm just telling you what you need to think
but
about.
you don't answer perhaps, but you give another perspective.
Yeah.
And this is, so I bound this to another question, which is that, so you say that due to the battery, the lifetime of a new electric vehicle will be shorter, but the maintenance will remain. And where do we see, from your point of view, what are the interesting areas for the aftermarket? Where will be the repair of vehicles go? Now we are speaking about a very young car park, where we don't have a lot of experience. And where are the areas where we think today the aftermarket will be, or the repair areas will be pop up? So
I think if I can answer this question, I think it is still very early, for instance, for the garages. All the suppliers have already started of being prepared of the e-vehicles, which will for sure come into the aftermarket, and for sure also the amount of e-vehicles and the portion of the total car park will definitely grow. So actually everybody is aware of this, and even if you talk to garages, they are aware, but the problem is not yet there. So therefore they let's say ignore the problem for the moment. But it is good, and we realize as ITGs that all the suppliers have started preparing themselves and start to talk to the garages, and the key is repeating. And the vehicles will appear in the garages, and once it is there, I think there will be a big change and a big run also to the services which are then needed. And garages need to rethink also the structure for the future. They need to be prepared better. But as I said, as long as the problem is not there, as long as the vehicles are not appearing in the aftermarket, we don't see any significant changes within the workshops.
Okay. And yes.
Can I add to that?
Yes, of course.
Want to keep the discussion going? I think we will, on the EV side, we might see some different products coming more to the aftermarket than what we see with the combustion engines. I think the tires is one area where, through the weight, that we see more tires being needed. Other areas might be thermal management. Thermal management, not what we know today, but with cooling down the battery, heating the battery for different conditions, that will bring new areas and new business to the aftermarket. I heard at the beginning from EVs, braking will completely go away. I don't think so, right? We see that already, and there are markets like Norway or the Netherlands where we can see already that the braking business is still a good one. So there are areas which we know, some new areas might come, and there might be areas we do not see yet because we do not have this experience from the life cycle of these cars. But what I have seen in some countries, at least in Europe, it's not too bad, the business of EVs. And it's also, from the component side, more expensive. Yeah, we also have to keep that in mind. So that, not yet really defined, but some areas we know. And for example, wiper plates we might need for all areas and for all cars and trucks.
Yeah, it's always a search if you have a new technology to find the way how they fail. With many years in the aftermarket, when I listen to my OE engineers, they say, our products are so good they will never fail. And later on we see that we earned quite good money with that. We had a funny story some years ago. One of my OE colleagues came to me and said, well, I don't understand how you sell this product so much because we made it so good, it doesn't fail. And it was in an audience of all our aftermarket colleagues. Everybody started to laugh. And this is unexpected repairs, unexpected thing. And
I'd like to add something there. I think what we have to be aware of is, as the technology in the vehicle and as the vehicle becomes more electrified, there's a danger in the independent aftermarket that the perception is that it's only the OE dealers that can service that vehicle and can repair that vehicle. And technically that might be the case in the early days, but what we have to, as an aftermarket, really focus on is the knowledge transfer to make sure that the independent aftermarket is capable of doing everything that a dealer workshop is, or the approved workshop is capable of doing. And there's an initial perception immediately when new technology vehicles come out, and I'm talking specifically with the electric transmission, there's an immediate perception that the independent aftermarket can't service that vehicle. And it can. Maybe the concentration of technicians that can service the vehicle is not at the right level yet. But if you go and look at Norway, which is arguably the country which has the highest percentage of electric vehicles, you can see there the aftermarket is beginning to it's surviving. It's slightly evolving in some of the services that it provides, but it's doing fine. And so we're a resilient market. I don't think we must be sitting here being nervous. We'll be fine.
I agree with you because, there is something, anything what moves needs one time, has a wear and needs to be repaired. The notion of the repair is changing. And now both of you pointed out the Scandinavian Nordics. And I think for us, this place is a kind of a lighthouse to see, to learn, and to adapt to the other markets. And now I want to go to next another topic to say how can we prepare the workshops, our final consumers for that. And I think there is a a responsibility of us all, the manufacturers as well as the ITG side, who is concentrating also that side. And how is the preparing, how your partners are preparing this kind of things?
I think it's working. Is it working? No.
Yeah.
I think it starts with training, right? To prepare everybody. And I learned today, also here in Turkey, how important training is, and with all these new technologies. So training is a key area which we have to prepare the workshops doing the work, to getting to these battery electric vehicles. You need equipment, you have to have a special training to work on high voltage batteries, which is the most critical part if I take that vehicle. Might be the right equipment, right, which we have to provide to the garages to be sure that they can do the work. In Norway, I have seen all of that. I have seen the training, I have seen the equipment, I have seen gloves and other things. So it's already there. Now our role as IDG is to multiply that and bringing that across all of our members. But I think, I'm not so much scared about that, because I'm seeing already a lot of workshops doing repair on EV cars. So they're focusing on that. But you have to change a little bit. I think it's important. In our ITG, we have already 1,500 workshops doing work on EVs, which is quite amazing, right? Everybody's saying it's not there. It is already coming,
I believe, and I feel confident that the change will happen very smoothly. If we just look into the past, when the mechanics and the workshops were just repairing mechanical engines, there was no electricity, no electric items inside, and then it grew, and there were more components inside which were electric. Then suddenly test equipment was needed, and some people then were scared and say, oh, this is the end of the aftermarket, we will lose everything to the OE garages. This didn't happen, and I think the same way it will work with the e-vehicles in the future.
I'd like to add to that. If I could just add that if you look at the life of a vehicle, the OEs are not capable of supporting that vehicle for its full life. The vehicle manufacturers need the independent aftermarket. And so it's going to be a combined responsibility between the vehicle manufacturer, who in the initial phases has no real incentive to share the information. It's the suppliers and the manufacturers of the product that is going into that vehicle who have an incentive to share the information. And it's the distributors who have the last mile and who own the workshop in terms of the relationship. They have a responsibility to make sure. So it's a collaborative process to get the knowledge and the know-how from point of manufacture down to the workshop to the technician, so they can keep that car on the road. So that process has long been established. It happens today, maybe not on the electric side, but it happens. So I foresee that will continue. I don't think that will change.
But I guess if I can add to that, where I'm a little bit getting nervous is, we're changing in technology. We're going more and more into software. We're talking about, PCs on wheels. They're driving. And with that, we need a different type of knowledge, but also talent. And my concern is, can we find the talents today and even more in the future? Because this is, for me, the biggest challenge our industry is facing, to find the right talents to make that all happen. I think we can think about what we need in equipment and in training and all these kind of things, but do we get the people in our industry dealing with this new and latest exciting technologies, sensors, which we see in these EV cars, software, and all that kind of things. I don't. Maybe you see that differently.
And Gunther, you are touching now a point where I see also a hurt point of our business. Our business, the automotive aftermarket business, it's a business where I look here around and I know many people there who are with heart, who love this business. But the problem that we have is that from outside, speaking to my friends, they say, what is aftermarket? Yeah? In some countries the word is even bad. And they say, what is this? Because they compare or they transfer the knowledge of a dirty workshop, people in oil, yes, into our business. So it's known as a dirt business. And this is not attracting youngsters. Because even the youngsters of today, I know it from my interviews, they have complete other ideas of how to work like we were those days. And we have to make it more attractive. We have to explain our branch. We have to explain that it is a future. It is not anymore this dirt bank. I remember I had friends who made in Germany this apprenticeship. And because they were having hands in oil, some of the older semesters here and older people know the nickname were the Ewings, yeah, because of the oil. So the Ewing. So and we have to transfer this and to tell it's not like this. It is a job. It is a job which needs today more intelligence. It's not like this. And now I see a lot of people from Turkey, and I said, you remember in our youngster time when you brought a small child to the service station, the standard talk was "Eti seni kemiğin benim." So it was like this. Yeah? So I will not translate it. It's very bad. And today we have to explain that it is not like this, but it's also our responsibility as company owners, manufacturers, and so on, also to take an influence in the education of these people, to help schools, to help this kind of institutions to bring in this technical knowledge, this know-how. And this is, and I think this, we in the aftermarket all together have a very nice initiative, and I see the placards here about talents for AA. So this is, I think, a very good initiative for the future, attracting people to us. But we have to do that also, because otherwise we will, like Gunther says, we will have everything ready, but we will not have the people who do the job.
I think in some of the discussions that I've had with the workshops in various markets and in a number of countries, when I ask the workshop how they plan to be ready for the new car, I get some very wide responses. One of the responses is, it's not my problem. I plan on retiring. By the time the electric car's here, I'm gone. And, you know, we laugh about that, and it's a flippant answer. But at the end of the day, it gives an insight into us understanding that there is going to be an attrition in that level of the market, because it's only those that want to evolve and focus on the new market that are going to be around. And so it is true, the independent aftermarket is not a sexy market, it isn't a sexy employer, and so we do have to, and we're probably talking to the converted in this room. Everyone in this room is probably plays some role in the independent aftermarket, so this isn't the preaching to the converted, but we do need institutions like Talents for the Automotive Aftermarket, which go out and try and catch the students when they're still at that age where they're trying to decide what to do, and to try and say to them, come, there's something exciting happening here. There is a future in this market. You know, the fact that the car's changing in technology does not mean that this market is disappearing. There is a future. So I think both organizations were founding members of Talents, if I remember correctly.
We are supporting this as well, and you are both, or three of you are fully right. We need to attract the people who are at school. We need to get them when they being socialized at school. So somehow we need to get them there. And you fully right mentioned these are computers on 4 wheels. And that's maybe the point where it becomes more attractive, because you said it fully right. The aftermarket, if you explain it to somebody, nobody understands it, it's not sexy enough. There are many other topics like social media, which are more interesting for the people who are actually the target potential mechanics for the future. We need to try to get them within the education. And this organization, Talents for AA, is a starting point, and probably more will follow. So I hope, and I cross my fingers, that we get, we will have a fruitful outcome of this.
Yes, and one obligatory questions that we have always is, again, now we are part of Europe, continentally, and from the mindset also. Now we see the increasing numbers of Chinese vehicles coming, electrical. So how they are coming to us and so on. So do you think this will be increased? What is the chance that the Chinese car park can grow here? Or how do you see, how is the mentality, let's say, towards Chinese vehicles, especially now I speak about electrical vehicles?
I don't see that so many Chinese in total numbers are appearing in the markets. Yes, everybody is talking about that. Yes, you can see them on the roads, but I still believe that the full trust in these vehicles is not yet there.
Okay.
It will come. It will come, and we will not stop it. We might have the possibility we might slow down a little bit, but I guess they're coming everywhere. And if it's not Europe, it might be in other areas. But you see the tremendous amount of cars they produce. They're looking attractive. They're cheap. So that is a good entry point for these kind of vehicles. So, but this is a mixed picture, and you're right. We do not see, as we also see, not so many other EVs on the roads. But I would not underestimate that. The question for me is, when they're here, how do we deal with that? Because normally they're coming without organizations. They do not have the service, which is for the end consumer a concern. For us in the aftermarket might be an opportunity. And I'm a positive thinking person, so I'm seeing always the opportunity in something like that. They're searching at the moment. They're searching for networks. They're searching for service points. With that, they also have to provide the parts, because where should we get that, right? So this is where we have the opportunities in dealing with that. But again, my point is, to your question, I would not underestimate the Chinese vehicles.
I completely agree that the Chinese vehicles are coming. They're cheap, and that's the attraction. The attraction is that you can get an electric vehicle, and it's very affordable. It comes with some negatives, though, exactly as you said. They're not often very well supported. And so that becomes an issue when you need some support for your vehicle as it's getting older. It is clearly an opportunity for the independent aftermarket, and certainly for distributors who have access to workshops, to be able to step in and perhaps become that support structure for the I'm going to call it the cheap Chinese vehicle. However, there's another factor that is sitting there, and that is the repairability of the battery. And so what we're finding is a lot of the cheap Chinese vehicles are coming in with a technology in the battery that does not allow for it to be repairable. And that's why it's so cheap. And so what happens is, if that battery fails, the cost to repair that vehicle is the cost of a new battery, because you can't repair the battery. The more expensive batteries are, I'm not going to say repairable, but there's modular technology where you can replace modules and you don't have to replace the full battery, and it isn't so big relative to the cost of the car. And at the moment, it's a loophole. And so legislation needs to come into place. The authorities in the European Union needs to think very quickly about putting legislation in place to ensure that batteries are repairable. And it's not actually just batteries, it's all aspects of cheap vehicles. If it isn't repairable, it's almost an unfair advantage to sell it. So, and just on this topic of cheap Chinese vehicles, and I do think good competition is good for any market, so I'm not saying don't have them. But it's interesting to see what America did last week, where they put in, is it 100%, was it 100% duty?
Yes.
And he did it overnight. And so I'll be interested to see if the European Union comes up with something similar. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, maybe we also have to correct a little bit. It's not only the cheap Chinese vehicles that are coming. If you take, for example, the Neos, they're not cheap, right? They're very exciting, and they're in a price segment where they compete with European car manufacturers. So it's not only cheap, but the volume is coming into that. But I fully agree with you with the battery. That also is a concern of us, that we can repair it, because that is one of the most expensive parts of the vehicle. And if we cannot repair it or replace it in a good way, and the prices are too high, that will be even more a concern of the end consumer.
And for me, there was one point that I pick up is that the experience from the past is also, and what I see also in some African countries when I go around with the Chinese vehicles, is they sell the cars, but there is no after service. Yeah. So, and this I see personally positive as a opportunity for aftermarket company. And now I'm sitting with the major IDGs here who have their own garage concepts, and I think perhaps this is an opportunity also for the garage concept and cooperation with the Chinese to support them and to have a win-win situation in total for the aftermarket and the changing environment of the car park also.
It's not only for the Chinese, it's for every startup who is focusing on battery EV vehicles. They're focusing on the car, less on the service and after sales, what we see, at least at the moment.
Yeah, I must agree. It's not just the Chinese. I think in some of the markets in Europe, we call it the Eastern European countries, for example, some Teslas that don't have the correct support mechanisms for the vehicle. So it's not just a Chinese problem.
At all.
Okay, now I would like to pass the word to the audience. If you have some questions towards us. No questions? Sorusu olan yok mu? Okay. Oh, a microphone, please.
Thank you very much. As you told that electric engines and as you told that electric cars getting popular and popular every single day, and what do you think about the internal combustion engines of the all type of engines in the feature of the aftermarket, especially on the engine components? The feature of the engine components, I am asking. Thank you very much.
I didn't hear that. Sorry, I couldn't hear that.
But we didn't well understand the thing because of the loudness. So.
Okay.
The microphone is not working. Cannot hear.
Okay, I'm asking again.
No.
As you told that electric vehicles getting popular every single day, And what do you think of the future of the internal combustion engines? Especially I am asking the engine components in the aftermarket.
You want to start?
You want to start?
I can start. At the moment, the drive or the increase in the electric vehicle park has largely been driven by incentives and governmental legislation and regulation. And so the internal combustion engine is still the majority vehicle in the market. And if you think that the average age of generally a vehicle in Europe is 13, I think the lowest is 7 in Liechtenstein and the highest is 17, and I can't remember which market it is. But so at an average age of 13, even if in 2035 no more ICE engines are allowed to be registered, that 13 is probably going to be 15 or 16 or 17 by then. And so you've still got another decade and a half afterwards with an existing vehicle park. That is, if you ignore the fact that potentially now with the European Parliament being re-voted on in a month's time, I wouldn't be surprised if some of these deadlines the discussion gets reopened. And so I'm not yet ready to say that the internal combustion engine has an end date. I think as long as we're sitting in this room, there's going to be a very big aftermarket for internal combustion engines. I don't want to downplay the very important fact that the electric vehicle is growing and will continue to grow. I just don't think it's going to be the only technology in the future.
Maybe I can answer your second question about the components and the parts, because that we have to watch very carefully. Because if the production is coming down from new combustion engines, the overall volumes is coming down. So now we have the cars in the aftermarket, but we do not have the volume anymore like we had before. So in this we have to watch how we deal with that, to make these components available. The cars are there, but do we have the production and the capacity anymore? Because you have seen that we're in that technology transformation. One technology is coming down, the others is ramping up. And this is normally something where we have to watch very carefully to make these components still available. And some of the manufacturers are talking about the last standing man, to say, okay, I want to keep that as long as possible. The question is how to adjust the production and how to keep the cost on a reasonable level, which is for me a little bit a concern. Yeah, but we have to see. But at least the volumes are still being there, for the next years. Does this answer your question?
And I think we should not make the mistake to play out e-vehicles against combustion engines. I think in the future there will be a total and balanced mixture of both technologies. For the moment we have the situation in the European Union that yes, officially it will be blocked until 35, but it is under revision in 2 years already. We will have elections very soon. We expect different majorities in the parliament. So the whole thing will be opened up again. And I think the pressure from the public is there. They're aware that people tend not to be forced to go only for for electric only strategy in the future, and also the pressure and also the impression from other countries. If we just look into Japan, there is a bright consensus and unity between the politics, the industry, and the public that also in the future there will be alternative fuels play a bigger role. The same counts for if you go into the neighborhood of Korea. So also there a big institute mentioned e-fuels is the future also for us in our country. If you go to China, the government declaration 2023, they mentioned we will see at least combustion engines until 2060, 60. And it is at least, so it will not stop. There is no end date. And if you look into the USA, where also Sorry. Sorry for that. If you look into the USA, which is the biggest economy still nowadays, there was this regulation from the Biden administration where they also decided to develop synthetic fuels in the future, and they are pushing this and they are subsidizing this. So also, we as Europe, we cannot ignore the facts that are happening around. So for sure, the combustion engine will be there. Everybody is I think we can agree, everybody, that we need to go away from fossil fuels or fossil or decarbonization. We need to force this. But in fact, there will be opportunities, and I personally don't believe that it will be finished after 33, especially in countries who are not generating their energy out of green energy. So in case of you have countries, Poland is a good example. So most of the electric power they generate with carbon. So how does an electric vehicle contribute to a decarbonization? So this question is also fully open.
Thank you, gentlemen. And as you hear the announcement, they're closing. So we do not want to be the ones who have to switch off the lights. I want to thank to my colleagues participating. I hope we could give you some insights of the general situation, how it is seen, the aftermarket and the opportunities brought. And one key message is we will have enough bread out of the aftermarket business for the next years with the technologies that we know. But on the other hand, there are some topics that we need to train the next generation. We have to find the right garagist people. We have to find the right people. And the rest, we are prepared. And we are preparing. And I see when I go around and just in the neighborhood, I see companies who are prepared for this. So we are not fearing the future. It's a challenge that we will take. And thank you for being here. Thank you to listen to us.
Okay, ses geliyor, tamam. We thank you very much for this valuable conference discussion. I believe that all those questions are going to be asked in the coming couple of years. Most likely that we are not going to like the answers. Some of us will enjoy, but the rest will think about the answers even while sleeping probably. But sooner or later, as you know, the future will come, and we will get ready for the future. Hence, it is our job, that we are a part of the aftermarket business. So, once again, I would like to thank you very much for your attendance on behalf of the OSS organization, and it will be a pleasure to have you here. So, as in every conference, we would like to present our speakers a small memory of this evening. So let's start for that ceremony. Hepinize çok teşekkür ederiz katıldığınız için. Sanıyorum fuarın şu anki ve bundan sonrakiler olacaklar için bile en verimli, en güzel, en yüksek katılımlı konferansını gerçekleştirdik. Hepinize çok teşekkür ederim. Türkçesiyle de söyleyeyim. Gelecek kaçınılmaz bir şekilde gelmeye devam ediyor. Bizler de bu değişime hazırlıklı olarak yolumuza devam etmek durumundayız. Tekrar teşekkür ederim. Şimdi şeye geçiyoruz. So I am going to present the first plaque to my dear friend Alex Munjuri, who has accepted to be the moderator of this nice conference, and without any hesitation, without asking why or letting me wait. So Alex Munjuri, I also would like to thank you that he is also representing the Schaeffler company here. I mean, not to be forgotten. So thank you very much. So now I would like to invite our ex-president, Mr. Eyal Tarablus, to the stage to present the plaque to Mr. Günther Weber from Grupo Auto Union. Thank you very much, Eyal Bey. Maybe we may be inviting you for the group photo. Yeah. And our next president, the last term's president, Ziya Bey, I would like to invite you to present tonight's memories to Mr. Espinoza, who is representing the ATR International here tonight. Thank you very much. And last but not the least, I would like to invite our current president, Mr. Ali Özçete, to the stage to present today's memory to Mr. Ingo Reif, the CEO of Global One Automotive. So Ali Bey, sahnede kalalım. Ziya Bey, Eyal Bey, sizleri de tekrar rica edelim. Let's have a group photo all together. Ayrılmadan önce bir de bilgi verelim. Az sonra başlayacak olan bir kokteylimiz olacak OSS Lounge'unda. Giriş holünün üst katındadır, birinci katta. Hepiniz davetlisiniz, bekliyoruz. Teşekkürler.